Greetings. My name is Jeff Liebmann, and I'm the consulting minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Smithton, Pennsylvania. And this is another in our series of video sermons provided to you. This sermon was delivered on Association Sunday in October of 2010 and is titled Flawed Diamonds. Our opening words come from Unitarian Universalist minister Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us join together, remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery. Our reflection reading comes from Dana McLean Greeley in his 1963 book, The Free Church in a Changing World. Liberal religion is not an institution. It is a movement in history, a set of values, and a way of life. More important than the merger of two denominations is the quickening of the principles for which they exist. We believe in change and growth. We must be honest enough to detect our weaknesses and brave enough to assert and develop our strengths. If we have faith in the future, we must be convinced that our great heritage is insignificant in comparison with the role of liberal religion for tomorrow. Without vision, we would perish, and that role would be realized by others in our stead. But with vision and a commensurate commitment, our own efforts may prove worthy of the promise of yesterday. I've always had a tendency to back underdogs. I was a Pittsburgh Penguins fan long before the glory days of Mario Lemieux. My first season as a fan of Steeler football, the team's record was 1-13. My favorite comic book superheroes always have major disabilities, like the blind Daredevil, or, quite appropriate for me and my heart condition, Tony Stark, whose heart condition led him to become Iron Man. And I have voted for my share of third-party candidates for president over the years. My first dog was a German Shepherd Collie mix, in other words, a mutt. Gus was also the runt of the litter. Now, Gus never grew to be very big, at least by standards of the average Shepherd or Collie. He probably wasn't the smartest dog on the block. And his hip dysplasia hindered his ability to run and made him notably clumsy, especially on sharp turns. But Gus was incredibly loyal and loving, a dog of unquestioned devotion to our family. One day we were all sitting in the kitchen, and we heard a strange noise coming from another room. So we went to investigate, and we found my young nephew with his arm down Gus's throat up to the elbow. The poor dog looked imploringly at us as we entered, trying desperately not to bite down on the child. I'm sure Lassie could have run circles around Gus, but no dog could have tried harder to love and to protect us. Perhaps my propensity for backing underdogs helped guide me toward Unitarian Universalism. After all, how could I resist joining one of the smallest denominations in our country, that boasts as many historically significant figures as we do. How could I not be attracted to a faith whose members have gone to the stake willingly in defense of their beliefs, whose members have died in acts of public witness defending the rights of others? A religion that rejects dogma and creedal requirements for membership was a natural fit for someone who loves to challenge authority and subvert dominant paradigms in our society. This year, in 2010, the Unitarian Universalist celebrates the 50th anniversary of the merger of the American Unitarian Association with the Universalist Church of America. In this church year, we are commemorating the union of two ancient worldviews, that God, however one views the wonder and mystery of existence, is a unified oneness, and that each and every one of us comes from and will always be part of the same eternal stuff of the cosmos. Unitarian Universalism celebrates the bravery as well as the very human defects of all the prophets through the years. We remember the anger of Jesus overturning tables of the money changers in the temple. We recognize Siddhartha's youthful naivete and subsequent mistakes on the road toward enlightenment and becoming the Buddha. We understand how Abraham doubted the power and purpose of God's commands when asked to sacrifice his only son. And we share in the frustration of Muhammad, who preached mercy and peace, but felt compelled to use violence and war to protect and unite his people. Unitarian Universalism celebrates our capacity to think, to make informed choices, and commit to our decisions, to be alive. Unitarian Universalism also rejoices in the humanity of each of us to make mistakes, knowing that we are all receiving eventual salvation. We reject the notion of original sin, that we are born as broken and damaged creations. Rather, we see each birth as the gift of raw materials to be transformed over a lifetime of loving and learning, of struggle and hardship, into a spiritual human being. Unitarian Universalism celebrates our sympathy for the oppressed, our concern for basic human rights, and the care for the sick and the weary. We also acknowledge that we are sometimes weak and vulnerable people, afraid to step outside our comfort zones, and to risk what we have for that vision of a beloved community we so treasure. It is perhaps appropriate that our denomination also represents the foibles and flaws of our humanity. For Unitarian Universalism is not a finished product in and of itself. We built into our code a regular review of the principles and sources of our faith, recognizing that religious community shifts and changes with tide and time. How we defined ourselves 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even a decade ago, may not accurately represent our beliefs today. And more importantly, no articulation of belief will ever equally apply to all Unitarian Universalists.